Hi, this is Ramakrishna Verma, and my subject is Introduction to Cybersecurity, and my project is SQL Injection Attacks. In SQL Injection Attacks, SQL means Structured Query Language. SQL injections attacks mainly having security threats on web application. It allows attackers to gain unauthorized access to the information stored in the database through web application. The attackers can use SQL vulnerability to corrupt and take control of the system. As a result, that the system could have loss in providing services to the user, and the main keywords were SQL attack, vulnerabilities, and database. Vulnerabilities means the data which is flowing from the database through web applications to the attacker. In the sample figure, you can see that the attacker will send like a user ID 1 equal to 1 on the user login ID, and when he submits it, we can see when he submits it this web form, the web application sends the input to its underlying database. The database checks all the user data with the input given. Since the attacker has given command 1 equal to 1, which makes it true always, and the command for the comments is like select accounts from user login in the SQL database and returns the account data in the user table. This is done in the unsecured web applications, and most of the researchers has some wide range of techniques known to the attackers, and they proposed some of the researchers addresses only some issues related to the SQL injection.
Hello team, my name is Akhil Kumar Chinnadivala. Here I am going to discuss about the SQL injection attacks. SQL injection is a code injection attack in which data provided by the user as an input is included in a SQL query used by the application to communicate with the database. Whichever is the input we have given by the application, which gonna be used as the attack. By leveraging these vulnerability, attackers can give SQL commands directly to the database. By using them, the SQL commands directly use the database of us. And mostly I am going to discuss about the problem formulation. We have SQL injection vulnerabilities are given great attention. Many proposed solutions fails to address the full scope of the problem. We have many types of SQL injection attacks, like 4 types we have. Researchers and practitioners are often unaware of the different techniques used to perform SQL injection attacks. Therefore, most solutions propose to detect or prevent only a subset of the possible SQLIAs. Mostly this paper gives knowledge on the different types of injection mechanisms used by the attackers or addressed by the SQL injection attacks. We are discussing completely based on the SQL, what are the types of attacks we are going to get in injection attacks. In total, we have 4 types. We have one is through the user input, one is through the cookies, one is through server variables, and final one is the second order injection. First of all, I am discussing about the injection through user input. In general injection mechanisms, a statement can be introduced into vulnerable application using many different input mechanisms. In this section, we explain the most common mechanisms. In this case, injection through user input. In this case, the attackers give the web application user input by a provided crafted SQL command suitably. Whenever you are using the web application, the attackers can get the user input A web application can read user input in several ways based on the environment. They can easily view read us in most SQL attacks. The target web application user input typically comes from form submissions that are sent to the web application via HTTP or POST request and so on, GET and POST requests. Web application generally use the user input contained in the requests as they would access other variables in the environment. And second one, injection through the cookies. Cookies are files containing state information generated by the web application and stored on the client machine. They can use the state information on client machines. When a client returns to the web application, cookies are used to restore the client state information. Whenever they use the web application or they return client return from the web application, they restore the client state information. Since the cookies is stored on the client machine and the client has control over the cookies, a malicious client could tamper with cookies contents. If the web application uses the modified cookies content to build SQL query, an attacker could easily submit an attack by embedding it in the cookie. They can easily identify as our content. Injection through server variables. Server variables are collection of variables containing HTTP, network headers, and environmental variables. They can consider of these variables. Server variables are used by the web application in variety of ways, such as logging usage statistics and identifying browsing trends. If these variables are logged to the database without validation and sanitization, this could create an SQL injection vulnerabilities. As attacker can tamper the value placed in HTTP and network headers, they can exploit this vulnerability by placing an into headers. When the query is issued to log the server variable to database, the attack in the modifier header is triggered. The injection through server vulnerabilities is based on the HTTP and network headers. Whenever they are using the network header, they can exploit this vulnerability by placing SQLIA into the headers. The final one is the SQL order injection. In the second order injection, attackers implant malicious input into system or database to the indirectly trigger an SQLIA. When that input is used later, the objective of the attack differs significantly from a regular injection attack. Second injection do not cause the attacker to occur when the malicious input reaches the database. Instead, attack rely on the knowledge of where the given input will be subsequently used and plan their attack so that it trigger during the that usage of time.
For the design of experiment, we have taken a sample application code which takes input for the parameters login, password, and PIN, and then it creates a connection with the database underlying the application. And in the query, it sends these parameters and it executes the results. So for the implementation, we have discussed few of the different types of attacks, which are generally not performed in isolation, but many of them are implemented together. The first one is tautologies attacks. This is one of the most common SQL injection attack technique, where the SQL injection queries are injected into one or more where condition statements so that they are always evaluated to be true. Let's see an example. Here, in the login field, the user enters this command, and SQL uses -- for comments. So the following code in the statement will be changed to comments and won't be executed. And or 1 is equals to 1 makes this statement tautology, and this will return all the accounts information from the users table. The next one is illegal or logically incorrect queries attack. Here, the attacker gathers important information about the structure of the database by giving input such that he receives an error message. He tries to inject statements that are that cause a syntax error, type conversion error, and a logical error. And using this information, he uses this information to know the structure of the database. For example, here the user is using a type conversion command. The injected query attempts to extract the first user table, and then it converts this table name into an integer type. Because this is not a legal type conversion, the database throws an error. The next one is union query attack. Here the attacker exploits a vulnerable parameter to modify the data set returned for a query given. The union statement is used to concatenate a query which is of suitable suitable information. Here, the attacker is giving a query to know the card number of from the credit cards table, where the account number is 10032. And he uses a dash dash to comment the remaining part of the statement. Then we have piggy-banked queries attack. Here the attacker tries to inject additional and distinct queries that piggyback on the original query, resulting the database to receive multiple queries. Here we can see he's using a delimiter and then gives a query to drop the table users, which makes the denial of service, which may cause denial of service. Then we can see stored procedures. Stored procedures injection attack try to execute the stored procedures present in the web application database. Once the attacker determines the database used in the backend, he crafts to execute stored procedures provided by that database, including those that interact with the database operating system. For example, if the lines 5, 6, 7 in the previous code are replaced with this code, and the user gives input as this input for in the username or password fields, doesn't matter. This command is used to the semicolon is used as a delimiter in MySQL, and this will shut down the database, and the remaining part of the statement is turned to comments. And if shutdown of the database causes denial of service of the web application. Next is inference attack. Here the query is crafted in the form of an action that is executed based on the answer to a true or false question about the data values in the database. Here we have two well-known attack techniques, which are blind injection and timing attacks. In blind injection, the information must be inferred for the behavior of the page by requesting the server true or false questions. Here, the attacker gives two queries where he uses 1 is equals to 0, which always evaluates to false, and then he gives 1 is equals to 1, which always evaluates true. If in case there is no login error message, then the attacker acknowledges that the attack went through and the login parameter is vulnerable for injection. In timings attack, it allows an attacker to gain information from a database by observing timely delays in the response of the database. Here, he uses substring function to extract the first character of the first table's name. In case the attacker is asking for here in this case, the attacker is asking if the ASCII value of the character is greater than or less than or equal to the ASCII value of character X, capital X. Next, we have alternate encodings attack, which is used in conjunction with other attacks where the injected text is modified to avoid detection by defensive coding practices. Here we can see that the attacker is using a delimiter and then giving a character function and then giving the encoding code and the given encoding hexadecimal encoding is for the string shutdown. So when the database executes this, it just shutdowns the database, and this is again a denial of service. So far we have covered different types of SQL injection attacks, the introduction, and we conclude here. Thank you.